as it is the other way around, you know, with older men with younger women. But it has always existed, and I think the important thing in this story is that it did exist. Sally Conforti and Oscar did have a relationship, and she was a lot older than him.
Who fell for whom?
Oh, that's a great picture. What a great picture that is, Joe. Isn't that fantastic? I love it. You see it all there.
Well, of course, but Sally didn't quite have the looks that Helen did.
No.
Well,
no, she didn't.
I don't know. Yeah.
Who falls for whom in the movie?
I think the way Taylor wanted the story to play out was that it starts from a place of cynicism and people actually playing each other.
Yeah, what do
and
you want?
certainly he's kind of trying to play her. He's trying to find a way into this world that he suddenly sees is, you know, is economically successful and he quite likes, and is there a way in for him? And he's playing her, but it changes. That relationship changes, and through their mutual difficulties that we show in the movie, that they find kind of love together. I mean, and I think it's a real love.
It's an interesting, you know, you've got to see this brothel, and you see it operating, and we open on New Year's Eve. And you see all of the hoopla and the process that you expect.
The front of house business.
Yeah, the front of house process in the brothel. I think that, so you proceed into this, and you see these two very professional, tough individuals, Sally and well, it's actually Grace and Charlie Bontempo, you know, Joe Pesci and Helen Mirren. And you see that they've worked as business partners. If there was any spark in their relationship, it's long gone. And using the premise of having, you know, seeing somebody who thinks that their inner life, their sexual spark, their kind of emotional life is at an end, and they're just going through life, to see that person come alive. And my wife is very brave. At the beginning of this film, you see her kind of tired. I mean, she's gotten a very, very negative prognosis from her doctor about her life and her health. She's terminal. And in that process of just going through the drudgery, to then see this guy come into her life and see everything change. Now, part of the process can be hair and makeup, costume. But the real essence of when you have the thoroughbred, you know, artist like this, who can let that light come from inside. You see Helen come alive, and by the end of the film, she's a very different woman than she started at the beginning. And to be able to tell this story and to be able to touch an audience, because you start, you think it's just going to be a grab-ass, you know, movie. It's not. And the premise was, can you really get into this emotion of watching these very cynical, tough people open up inside emotionally?
I was so happy being a Joe Pesci fan. It seems like Joe just like took a deliberate sabbatical.
10 years.
10 years.
Self-imposed.
Exactly. So why, how did you get him to come back to this?
You know, I think that Joe is brilliant, and he is a consummate actor.
And a great singer.
And
he's an amazing artist.
Yes.
I heard him sing one day, and I was blown away.
You know who turned me on? Jamie Foxx and I went up to Quincy. Quincy's an old
Quincy
friend.
turned me on to him.
He did.
Exactly.
I went up to Quincy's house, and he said, let me play you somebody. And with Jamie, I sat there listening. We thought, was that Bobby McFerrin? We had a really good jazz singer. And Quincy said, this is the best singer I've heard in 10 years.
Apparently for 2 years, Quincy had everybody in his house playing the same CD. That's how I heard about it.
Absolutely. But Joe doesn't go out. He doesn't like to go out and perform. I think he finds it painful. And I brought him this role, and I said, listen, you're the only person I've thought of. I need you to play this role. And it's not the mad dog killer that you play in Goodfellas or Casino. This is a guy who is a small man with a big dream. He has his own American dream. I mean, he's a low, income. He was a cab driver. So, but he had this dream to legalize prostitution and have this whole thing. And he had a belief in the idea of a brothel being a service to society. He said, you let these crazy people out that are pent up with sex, give them an outlet. He charged a certain reasonable price at that time. It's really gone way crazy since then. But, he had a dream. He actualized a dream. He had his wife who actually ran the place for him. And I said to Joe, this is an opportunity for you to come back in something that you can really do something new in. Because at the end of this film, and again, Charlie in the film, he samples the merchandise, he's got up with the young girls, he's forgotten about his wife. At the end of this film, you see Joe Pesci reach levels of emotion that I don't think you've ever seen before. And I was really thrilled to work with him, and I'm thrilled that he agreed.
How much hell are you going to catch from perhaps women's groups, perhaps the Christian right, for romanticizing, idealizing prostitution in America?
You know, I think that women are the audience for this film. This is a woman's picture.
I have to say, I don't think prostitution is remotely romanticized in this film. That's the one, you know, what was it? The film with Julia Roberts,
Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. That romanticized prostitution. This absolutely does not romanticize prostitution. It really shows it absolutely how it is. And I think if anything...
Which is a business.
Which is a business, and, you know, it's a tough business. There are people in it who love it, people are in it for various dysfunctional reasons. But, you know, it's a business, and there it is. And it's certainly a business that's never going to go away. You know, as much as you bring in litigation or whatever you want to try to do to, you know, to get rid of prostitution, it will never, ever, ever go away. So that's something that we all, as grown-ups, have to face and look at straight in the eye, you know. We try to show, I mean, obviously it's from the 70s, so it's a vintage, it's a period piece, but it certainly doesn't, I would say, remotely glamorize prostitution. It shows it absolutely how it is.
And, you know, I think if the Christian right, of course, I mean, they're going to, we have it in the film. We have people there that did protest this, this quote, amoral situation. But, you know, looking at that process, as Helen's saying, you know, brothels are so much more civilized. You know, the nature of a pimp in the street that is by the nature abusive to women, steals from them, does all of those things. In a brothel, it's a society of women. A madam is the only, you never can have a brothel run by a man. I mean, Joe Conforti was the kind of overall promoter, but the woman has to, it's a society of women. She's the tough mother. That's what Helen was playing. Tough mother, mother confessor at times. When she needs to apply discipline, she applies it very, very strongly. She keeps those girls in line and says, this is a business, this is how it's run. But when I look at society as a whole, one, you know, health officials there all the time making sure that everything is clean. Two, these girls are not exploited and they are making money. I think in reality, it's something that I support in our society. I think we come from a long Puritan ethic of being very uptight about sex. It's there. Why not regulate it? It would be a better for all people, especially for women.
Might this movie kick up that conversation all over again? Not that it's ever been dead, but might it spark that conversation in America?
I don't know. I think, listen, in Nevada, you see, the thing that was interesting about Joe and Sally Conforti, they had a monopoly. They were the only brothel that was legal.
The first one, yeah.
And then subsequently, it's quite a business now in Nevada. And one interesting thing, I went up and I did a lot of research to start. I met a madam named Susan Austin. She has two brothels. She has the Wild Horse, and then she bought the old Mustang. She was a girl that used to work for Joe Conforti at the original Mustang Ranch. She was fantastic. And she gave me a great deal of insight into what this role is, what the process is. And she truly cares about the people that she works with. She's a real professional. So I said to Helen, we got to go up there. I need you to meet her. Helen says, I'm not going to do a brothel. I said, we're going to spend the whole night there. She said, I'm not going there.
No, I can't do that, Taylor. I can't handle it.
But we got there.
Yeah.
And she met Susan and immediately...
Like this.
Yeah. Susan immediately went, you're coming with me.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
And I was with her husband, talking with her husband. We were out to, chatting. Hours went by, and we got there about 4:45 in the morning. I said, hell, we got to get out of here,
No.
And she was like,
do we have to go?
well, tell them what
a difference 8 hours makes. Huh?
But just to say, this is not a political film.
Yeah.
It's not a film advertising the advantages of legalized brothels. Far from it.
Yeah.
It's an emotional story. It's a love story, and it's a story about characters, and it's based on a true story. So, what people make of that particular argument is their own business. We are not trying to influence that argument or add to it or subtract from it.
In this country, though, as you know, Hollywood is so powerful. I only asked the question because Hollywood is so powerful that even when you're not intending to do that, a real conversation kicks up.